Welcome back to the Anxious Mama and Company podcast. What does it mean to be the parent of a child with autism? How do you navigate the challenges and find joy in the midst of uncertainty? These are just a couple of things we will explore on today's episode. So sit back, relax, and join us for a heartfelt conversation that sheds light on the world of autism and the incredible strength of a beautiful mama who loves her daughter unconditionally. Hey, welcome back to the podcast channel today. Today I have a guest, a gorgeous young lady that I am proud to call my friend. Her name is Adriana Vega. So Adriana, welcome to Anxious Mama and Company.
Hey, Jody. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm excited about your podcast, this episode, and I'm excited for our conversation.
Well, I'm so excited that you agreed to do it and, have a candid conversation. So all right, so let's just get right into it. So what I want for our audience to know, to learn and understand from this episode is your experience as a mom with a child that has autism. So you have two daughters. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your girls?
Yes, so I have two girls. One is 14 and my little one is 9. She'll be 10 next month.
Oh my goodness, double digits.
Yes, I know. It's so sad. It's like a bittersweet moment.
Yeah.
Her going into the double digits just really confirms that she is becoming a big girl now.
She's growing up. Yep. So it's your youngest. It's your youngest, the one that's almost 10 that has autism, correct?
Yes. Her name is
Ella. Ella's a sweetheart. So one of the questions I wanted to ask was like in early on, what were some of the like signs or clues that told you, hey, something's going on here. We need to figure this out.
Yeah. So I want to say she was not super interested in playing with other little ones her age. I'll never forget the moment that it was a very specific moment that I realized something's up. The public library, they had this cute little story time, and afterwards they had like this bubble party, and they played music, and they had this big bubble machine so the kids could like dance and play or whatever.
Yeah.
And during story time, she was not engaging like the other kids were who were her age. And at this time she was 3. And she wasn't super engaged in the story. She was disinterested. She would get really close to the other kids, like to their face.
Yeah.
And I noticed she was doing things like that. She also wasn't fully verbal. So the words that she would say were like made up, or, I was only the ones who were super close to her understood what it was that she was saying.
Oh, okay. She had like her own little way of communicating.
Right, like her own little language, pretty much. And so us, like me and of course her dad and older sister, we understood what she was communicating to us because we were with her every day. And then I noticed whenever it was time to do like the bubble music dance party thing, it was like, that's when I realized it was right then and there. It just, I don't know. I never suspected autism.
Yeah.
But it was like this moment, and I have it on video, which
really?
is really, wow. I'm really glad that I have it on video. But there's this moment where it's like she was in her own little world, and she was twirling and like dancing and like stimming pretty much.
Right.
And it was just her own world. She was just dancing in her own space, not engaging with anyone else. But she was so happy.
Right.
And so it was like this moment where I was like, this little girl is so magical. And I love that she basically marches to the beat of her own drum. anytime she wanted to do something, she didn't invite anyone else to do it. It was like, I'm going to do it. You can come
Miss
with me or
Independent.
you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right. Very independent. And so, but yeah, I'm so glad that I captured that moment because I I clearly remember it, as a core memory for myself. But then also when it comes up on my memories, it's like a moment where I'm like, oh, this is
Oh,
the
yeah.
moment when I kind of realized something was going on with her. So because she was delayed in speech, she was, delayed in other different things too that Riley, that my oldest, she had already made progress in.
Yeah, she already hit those
And
milestones.
right. And
Yeah.
I never wanted to be the mom that was like comparing my girls, but
Sure.
I did I did realize like no, these are some milestones that she should have hit by now that she hasn't. And we struggled with potty training. I would call her name and she wouldn't answer me.
Mm.
And so she was doing things like climbing.
Mm-hmm.
She was climbing like crazy high things like the fridge.
Is that
And
something common with autistic children to do that?
yeah, so
Really?
yes. So it's pretty much like they're seeking, what is the word? Stimulation. It's stimulation
Yeah.
seeking.
Right.
And so they don't realize what danger is
Mm-hmm.
at that young age. So they'll climb, they're seeking stimulation. So
Right.
they'll climb, they'll run around in circles, they'll do all these different things because they need that stimulation output. And so she was doing those things. So she would do laps, I mean, like sprint around the living room, like just go and go and go and go. And I would just sit there like, oh my goodness, like, I
What
don't know
is
what's
going
going
on?
on. Yeah, like, do I just let her And so there were days where I just sat and made sure that she didn't hurt herself.
Yeah.
When she would climb, I wouldn't panic because I didn't want to scare her and then
Right.
her really fall.
Yeah.
And I just noticed she had this crazy balance.
Mm-hmm.
She never seriously hurt herself. She never fell off of things.
Wow.
And it was amazing to me as I just thought, wow, she is so petite and tiny, but she's
Yeah.
so strong and she's she's balanced. I mean, she would balance on these just on whatever she could, and it would scare me, of course, as her
Right.
mom. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, she's gonna break something,
You want to wrap her
you
in
know.
Charmin? Yeah.
Yes, and it never, thank goodness, it never has happened. She has never gotten hurt, but she will climb fences. She'll
Wow.
climb, yes, she'll
Oh my
climb
goodness.
anything
So it's
basically.
like you
And
can't take your eyes off her. Just because you don't want
no,
her to hurt herself.
right. And so I'll just, and even still, she'll climb trees.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of have to, we don't panic. We let her because we know it makes her happy,
Right.
but we do keep a close eye and make sure. And we'll always remind her, hey, be careful, watch where you're putting your feet and your
Yeah.
hand placement to make sure you don't slip. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because every time, and since she was tiny, she would say, I'm okay, mom. I'm okay, mom.
She's reassuring you. She's got this.
Yes, she's having to reassure me, and it's
Yeah.
it's too funny. But
That's
so these things, it was all these different things that she was doing that just made me think like, wow, either she's just really active
mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna have to stay on my toes. Well, what really was concerning me was her speech, her delayed speech.
Delayed speech.
So what Right. So what I did, because Riley had the same issue, she had a little bit of delayed speech. And what I did with Riley was I reached out to the school system. It was right before she started kinder, and they evaluated her for speech. She got speech therapy for like, I think the first year of school, so her kindergarten year.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was fine after that. She made great progress. She was good. So I thought, well, maybe this is the same thing that's going on with Ella. So I reach out to the Weatherford School District. I start going through the process. And the day that we went to her speech evaluation, it was just she and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually excited that day because I felt like, okay, we can finally get her, speech therapy and get her moving in the right direction. And I was thinking, just like her sister, it'll be okay.
So you didn't have, at this point in time, you didn't have autism on your brain at all. You
No,
were just thinking it
no.
was a speech therapy thing.
Right.
Okay, so how did that
So,
go?
yeah, so then we show up to her evaluation,
Hmm.
and it was a speech therapist, a diagnostician, and a couple of other therapists that are occupational,
Hmm.
and another one. I can't think of what type of therapist it was, but so they were all there to evaluate her, and they did so by playing with her. So they
Oh.
would give her blocks, or they would tell her sort things from small to big, and color sort things like
Hmm.
that she should have been able to do at her
At that
age.
age, yeah.
And as they were interacting with her, I was doing paperwork, and so I would just listen and kind of watch her from the corner of my eye, and I was noticing she wasn't responding when they would talk to her. It was like she just wasn't interacting with them at all, like they weren't even there.
Mm.
And when they would tell her, hey, put these in order from small to big, she just basically put the puzzle together how she wanted to do it rather
Okay.
than doing it what they were asking of her.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I still wasn't really worried about it. I just felt like she doesn't know them. That's why she's, not really wanting to follow directions. She wants to play her way.
Hmm.
And so that's just what I was telling myself. Again, going back to that strong willed and independent,
Yeah.
And so I just thought, well, she doesn't have incentive to listen to these people she's never met before.
Which
And
makes sense.
so, right.
Yeah.
And so she started climbing. She started climbing this bookshelf.
Um,
And so that's whenever she started showing all the different things, that I thought were a little concerning, but I just basically put it off as she's just a very active child. And so at the end of the evaluation, I was sitting on the floor with her, and I was like painfully aware that they were watching me
mm-hmm.
interact with her.
Oh.
And I felt
So you knew
like
something
there
was
was
up.
this, right. And I felt like there was this spotlight on us.
Oh
They
gosh.
were just, five different people watching she and I interact, watching her, watching me, writing notes on a
Oh gosh,
clipboard.
yeah.
And I was just increasingly getting more and more anxious. And I could feel myself like starting to go into fight or flight. And it was just like making me so nervous.
Hmm.
And I would call her name and she wouldn't respond, or, just different things that I was trying to get her to do to try to show them there was nothing wrong with her,
Right, right.
and still trying to just talk to them about her speech. So then at the end of the evaluation, I'm sitting there and she's playing, and the one that was like the head of, you know, this evaluation, they basically all look to her, and she looks at me and she says, so we are seeing we are a little concerned, um, but not just about her speech. We are seeing some signs of other stuff going on. And I'm like, immediately, I'm thinking, what?
Yeah,
What could you possibly say is wrong with my child?
yeah.
So I got immediately, I felt defensive,
Defensive, yeah.
but I didn't want to show that I was being defensive. I wanted to I wanted to show that I was strong in that moment, but I was receptive to whatever it was that they were about to tell me.
Hmm.
So it was like I was trying to calm myself down
Yeah.
and also have listening ears to hear what feedback they were going to give me. And so inside, I wanted to say, on the inside, I'm thinking, like, what do you know? You don't know my child. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with her. I'm here for a speech evaluation. I'm not here for anything else.
yeah.
And so instead, it translated as, oh, okay, what what could this be that's leading to her not hitting these milestones with her speech? So
Hmm.
that was my way of trying to bring it back to the
Right.
staging. and they get quiet, and she looks at me and she's like, "We're seeing some signs of autism." And I, it was like, I had this weird feeling that they were going to say that, which is
Yeah.
so weird and bizarre. And at the same time, there was that side of me that was thinking, no,
No,
there's
no,
no
no, no.
way.
Mm-hmm.
And when they said it, it's like this feeling just sank, like it just
Yeah.
sank my heart into my stomach, and I just immediately was just shocked and speechless. And I remember trying to hold back tears because I don't know these people, they
Right.
don't know me, and I
Don't
don't
break
want to
down in front of
seem
them.
like, right, and I didn't want to seem weak, and I didn't want to seem, I just didn't want to be vulnerable in front of them.
Right, right.
And I also didn't want her to see me cry, and
Sure.
I just told them, what does that mean for her? And that's when I just started crying. Like I just couldn't hold it
Oh,
back anymore.
yeah. That was kind of my
And
next
so,
question for you because, like, this doesn't compare in any way, but I remember when one of my sons was diagnosed with ADHD. I remember going
mhm,
home and crying because I was sad for him, obviously, but I thought, what did I do wrong? Like, was there something I did when I was pregnant? Like, I thought maybe I was to blame for the glitch.
right.
So
You just
emotionally, I can't
never,
imagine.
yeah. And as a mom, you don't want to hear a stranger tell you there's something wrong with your kid.
Yeah. Or that they're going to have
It's
to
like,
struggle.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even if it's just any type of disorder, you don't want your child to ever have to struggle and be outcasted for it. So
Yeah.
all these different thoughts just started rushing through my head. It was like the world was spinning,
Uh-huh.
but everything was frozen in place at once. It was crazy. And I just remember being able to only get out that question of what does that mean for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm crying, and I immediately feel shame and embarrassed because I'm crying. However, this group, and they were all women, all these therapists, immediately they were like, "Hey, it's okay. We just want you to know that it's so good that as her mother, you spotted that something was going on with her and you
Yeah.
called in reinforcements."
Yeah.
And they just immediately jumped in to start reassuring me.
See, and that's like
And
something
they're
like a
like,
doctor. They see that every day. We don't, but they do see it
right,
every day. And so it wasn't surprising to them, I'm sure, the reaction, and they knew how to comfort you.
right. And so they're sitting there, and it was like they turned into, like, for me, they turned into this group of people who were judging and evaluating her to this group of women who saw me as a
Yeah.
fellow mother and
Yeah.
woman. And immediately they just started reassuring me. They're like, "Hey, we don't know if this is it though, because she's still very little. She
Yeah.
could very much, grow out of these different tendencies. And it's really hard to diagnose a little one, especially a girl."
Yeah, because
And
that's what I was going to ask you. My nephew's
mhm,
an OT, an occupational therapist assistant, and so he's taught me a lot about autism. And I have a nephew that has autism, but he's told me with girls, it's harder to diagnose them, especially early, because girls learn how to mask. They see how
yes,
everybody else is doing it, so they just do that.
yes,
So yeah, and so three, that's a pretty young age for diagnosis, right?
right. So then I say, okay, so hearing them reassuring me, I said, okay, what next?
Yeah.
So then they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. So immediately they tell me, we're going to set you up to do an auditory test, an eyesight test, just to make sure that those aren't some things that are she's struggling with. That maybe that's why it's causing these other different things.
Yeah.
Um, and then they said, we're going to get her early intervention, and we're going to they just started telling me, like, these are all the ways we're going to help you
They got
and
the
we're going to
ball
help her.
rolling. Yeah.
Yes, like they didn't hesitate. They're like, listen, we have the resources. We're going to get to the bottom of this so that we know how to help
That's
her.
amazing.
right. So then I'm like, okay. And then they they told me we're gonna call you and we're gonna schedule these other evaluations, like for her hearing and her eyesight.
Hmm.
And then from there, we'll start getting this going. So I'm like, okay, thank you so much. And I felt like relieved, but also there was a part of me that was like angry because
Yeah.
I felt like this is not why I came here. This
Right,
is
right.
not what I expected. Now, what do I do with this information? Like, how am I supposed to go home and process all of this? What do I
Hmm.
do? You know?
Yeah.
And so I just remember grabbing her and picking her up and just like holding her close to my chest and like hugging her. And I just remember telling her, you're gonna be okay no matter what happens. Mommy's gonna make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
And to her, like she just I remember she like looked back at me, she grabbed my face and she just smiled and like giggled and like she kissed me and we just walked to the car and I put her in her car seat and I got in my car and I just remember thinking, okay, if it's gonna be anyone that can do this, it's going to be me. I can do this. I'm going to be okay. She's going to be okay. We're
Yeah.
going to figure this out. And I made for this. I know I can do this. Then I call my husband, Benny, um, Ella's dad, and I tell him what they told me. And I'm at this point, then I start crying again
Yeah, you
because,
can let go because you're talking to your
right.
hubby. Sure.
Yes. And he's like, okay, so what does this mean? And, he has all these questions.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I haven't even processed it yet. And he's like, okay, well, we'll talk about it when I get home from work. It's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. And so I came home and she's playing. And that's when the thoughts started really just getting out of
You mean like
control. Because
intrusive thoughts, like all the negative thoughts?
yes,
Yeah.
all the negative thoughts, because that's when I was asking myself the same questions you asked yourself. What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Did I undernourish her?
Right.
When I nursed her, was I not eating the right things? Did her brain not get enough nutrients when I was
Hmm.
pregnant with her? Or,
There's something I could have done different. Yeah.
right. And then, of course, you get on Google and it's
Oh
like,
gosh. Go
oh, it's
down
the
that.
worst.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
Right. And I told myself, be careful, limit yourself with what you're reading and what you're believing. So I did have
Yeah.
that awareness that I did not need to go down this crazy rabbit hole and get lost in it.
Yeah.
And so then of course I thought, oh no, what if she has like an injury from being vaccinated?
Oh
So
yeah.
then that's a whole other
Well,
thing, right?
everything's just bombing you in your brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So not only am I blaming myself, trying to figure out if it's curable,
Mhm.
like what do I need to do to reverse it? Just
Yeah.
all these different things where I don't know where to start. I don't know who to ask
You're
because
like in panic mode.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No one in my family has ever been diagnosed with autism. So I didn't know who to ask. I felt alone. And at this time, I didn't have any family living here. And so I just felt so alone and scared. And I remember I started slowly telling family members. And this is when it got even harder because although they love me, they love her, they meant well, they
Right.
also were ignorant just as I was. And so I got a lot of comments like, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with her.
Oh,
Yeah. So I got things like that, like, no, that
that
she's
can't be
fine.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fine. She's just active and she'll grow into things. She'll mature and she'll start hitting these milestones and that's not it. There's nothing wrong with her, and it was like part of me wanted to believe that,
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wanted to believe that they got it wrong. And then
Yeah.
there's that other part of me that thought, yeah, you're right. There isn't anything wrong with her. Autism is not, a death wish or a death sentence, I should say. It's
Yeah.
not this disease that you can die from,
Yeah.
it's not a terminal illness. And so I thought, okay, I need to figure out what autism actually is. That's my starting point. So I start to get the right resources and I
Yeah.
start
So that was
learning
my
about,
next question. Like, what support kind of
yeah,
support system did you have?
yeah. So I actually didn't have one at first because, again, I didn't know where to turn.
Yeah.
So I start doing my own research and I start learning, that autism is very much just a different way of using your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once I realized that, I'm like, hey,
Work with this.
that's actually, yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
she's smarter than us. Which I always knew. I always knew this little girl is way too just
Yeah.
clever. She's so clever.
Yes.
It's just I knew I was gonna have a run for my money with this girl. She's just way too smart. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started leaning into that, where I'm like, wait, this is actually a superpower,
Yeah.
not a disability. It's not a disability. It really is that she just has different abilities, and
Yeah.
she understands the world around her in a much different way, in a more heightened way,
Yeah.
where that can be both bad and good,
Yeah.
because it can be too much for her,
Mm-hmm.
but then it can also be exciting for her too, because she everywhere around her she sees opportunity to create something,
Yeah.
or she's just so curious about everything around her. She just is so full of wonder. And I think that's the most
Amazing.
magical thing.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that about children in general,
Right.
that they're just so curious about everything around them. And she had that, but like on a heightened level.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, I'm not gonna look at this as a bad thing. Yeah, she might struggle socially and with understanding certain things, but we can work through that.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's brilliant in a whole other way is so exciting. And I'm so excited to go on this journey with her and learn all the things about what she's going to be and who she's going to be and what she's going to accomplish. And I can't wait to see how she masters things
Yeah.
in her own time, doing it her
Her
own
way.
way.
Yeah. So does
Yeah.
she have anything like that she fixates on? Like, is there anything that she's like obsessed with, wants to learn about? This is her thing.
Yes. So we call her Snow White
Snow White.
in my family,
Okay.
because animals are very much attracted to her.
Uh-huh.
And she actually, one time, she was tiny, she was teeny tiny, 4 years old. She was hand feeding a deer.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I mean, like, it walked right up to her, the mom and the baby.
Oh my goodness.
It walked right up to her, and she was just like, here's food, and just like made
Like the
friends
music
with me.
starts playing and all the birds start flying. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And
That's
so I'm
amazing.
there, yeah, so I'm there like watching just to make sure she's safe. But it's
Yeah.
like if I would get too close, they would start to back up.
Isn't that
So
funny?
yeah, so then I'm like, okay, I'm ruining this for her. So then I back up and they'd get close again.
Yeah.
And so that was like the coolest thing ever that
It's
I
like
got
they
to
knew
see
she
her
wasn't a
do.
threat or something.
Yeah, and
That's so
she taught.
interesting.
It is. It's incredible. She'll talk to them. She'll talk to animals, and it's like she's connecting with them. It's the most beautiful
Wow.
thing.
Wow.
Yes, and
She's the
I've
animal
not ever.
whisperer.
Yeah, literally, it's amazing, and she's very artsy,
Uh-huh.
but not in your conventional way. It's more so like, I can figure out how to do this, but I can use these things
Mm-hmm.
that are at my disposal to do it
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
And I remember during COVID, when we weren't going anywhere, whatever, we were here at home, and she started making her own Barbie clothes from just different stuff she would find around the house. So she would make dresses out of koozies,
Oh my goodness.
out of socks. She
Yeah.
would get socks, and she would, and at this point, she's not even, let me see, I want to say this was her pre-K year that yes, she was in pre-K whenever COVID hit.
Uh-huh.
So she's like 4 or 5 and she's making clothes out of socks, out of koozies, out of different things for her Barbies. And I'm thinking, wow, like she's so innovative,
So creative.
very creative, very creative. So animals, music, and any type of art or creativity where she
Hmm.
can create and make something, that is like her gift.
That's where she blossoms.
Yes.
Yeah. So, like at the age she is now, you said she's fixing to be 10.
Hmm.
Do you still have like, do you have moments? I don't know if I should say still, but like, do you have moments where it's hard for her to communicate to you? Like, if she gets upset about something, do you have communication issues sometimes, maybe?
So I will say that she is in ABA therapy now, which is helping her with that.
Okay. What kind of therapy is it?
ABA.
And
So
what
it's
is that?
like adaptive behavioral therapy. So it
Okay.
just helps with communicating and
I see.
understanding.
I see.
So it just helps it bridges that gap where she can understand the world around her
Hmm.
and she can also communicate what she's thinking and feeling
Oh,
in an
that's
appropriate
interesting.
way.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I
So,
got a funny story about that because my newest daughter-in-law, I don't know if you've met her yet or not, but she's autistic. And she told
oh,
me, she's like, neurotypical people speak in code. I don't have a communication problem. They have the communication problem. And then she explained it to me. She's like, when we're born, we have all the neurons in our brain. And she said a neurotypical person, they know how to like their brain, if they don't use it, their brain knows how to like just delete it and not still have it in their firing. She said we still have all of our neurons, whether we use them or not. So they're constantly firing. And if there's like too much going on, there's too many people in the room or too many people talking, she's like, and all of those neurons are firing, that's when she like verbally shuts down because she's it's too much stimulation. She's
yes,
overstimulated. She goes, but I don't have a problem communicating. You guys have a problem. She goes, I say all the time that neurotypical speaking code. She just cracks me up.
and I totally agree with her because
Yeah.
she's so right. Like, okay, so when we're little, right, we don't know quote unquote manners or courtesy, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just say what is, and that's it, right? We're taught, but we're trained and we're taught,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you can't say that or you can't act that way or whatever, right? So we're filtered, throughout
Right.
our developmental years so that we can fit into this world and we don't make anybody else uncomfortable.
Right. Right.
And the thing is with neurotypical people, they're like, I don't need to do that. Why?
Yeah.
It's either this or that.
Making
I
them
don't,
uncomfortable. Yeah.
right. And so it's like, I'm not, what do you mean I'm making you uncomfortable? I'm just telling you how I feel.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about my daughter-in-law Butterfly. She's like, I am very black and white. It's yes or no, point A to point B. She's like, I am not like your neurotypical. I cannot read between the lines. That no sarcasm. That's how her brain functions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with Ella, she she's very humorous. You know her.
Yes.
And she's so funny.
Oh
So
yeah.
she understands humor,
Hmm.
but then I love that she learned to ask if she doesn't understand that something's a joke, she'll ask you, Are is that a joke?
Aw.
And so yeah, and so I'll tell her, yes, that's a joke. And so she's like, okay. And she'll even tell me, she's like, okay, that's funny. And because to her, she thinks everything's
Everything's
funny. That's
funny,
the
yeah.
thing. Everything is so unserious to Ella. Everything's funny to her. So she has to ask because she wants to know, like, okay, am I allowed to laugh at
Yeah.
this? Because I want to.
Yeah.
And so
That's
she's like a
sweet.
little, yeah. So it's like the opposite, where there's some who don't know if it's funny because
Yeah.
to them, they're like, how is that supposed to be funny? That doesn't make any
Yes.
sense, you know?
Yes.
But to her, everything is hilarious. So yeah, so I love that about her too.
Yeah.
And so she understands sarcasm only because of tone of voice.
Ah,
Yes, so
okay.
she'll pick up on if somebody is being mean or a
Mm-hmm.
jerk, she can pick up on it. And she picks up on people's energy very, very quickly. So if she doesn't like you, she just is never going to like you.
Yeah.
And
She's not going to communicate with you at all.
she's not, you don't exist to her.
Yeah.
She will totally disregard you. And there's only very, very, very few people that has ever happened with.
Yeah.
And she's not rude to them. She just disregards them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if they say hi to her or whatever, she's just like, she won't look at them. She'll just say hi, very
Yeah.
dry. She's
Yeah.
just like hi, and she'll keep walking.
I remember being so
And
excited when she would wave back to me. I was like, because she'd look at
yes,
me, and it took several times, different times, and then finally she like waved back, and I was like, oh my gosh, she waved back
yes,
to me.
yeah. Because if once she befriends you, you are forever her friend. And
I love it. I
I
love
love that about her too, is that
it.
she's very loyal in that
Mhm.
way. So it's like once you connect with her, she's like, that's it. We're connected forever. You're my friend and we're pals. And so it's like she'll make really, really deep connections
Yeah,
or she won't at all.
at
She's like,
all.
I
Yeah,
don't even want to bother with you.
yeah. It's 100% or nothing.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
there are people that she feels very neutral about. And so she's kind of like, oh, hey, and that's all though. Like that's all she'll
right,
give them.
right.
But yeah, if she dislikes somebody, you'll know it and you cannot change her mind about it. And I don't even try. I'm like, I'm not gonna try to make her like
Yeah,
you. There's something about you she just does
I
not
mean, it
like.
sounds like she's a good judge of people.
She really is.
So there
She
you
really
go.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah. So anytime that she's real hesitant around someone, I'm like, what's
don't
wrong
push
with
it.
you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Or I even look at them like, why doesn't my kid like
Why
you?
is my
That's
kid like
weird.
you? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's
but
nice. You have
that's
your own little radar.
yeah, she's great about that. It's
Yeah,
amazing. So, but yeah, those are like all of her, I feel like her superpowers
right.
basically, where she's just so in tuned with everything
Hmm.
around her and she's very passionate about what she loves and
Yeah,
doesn't love
yeah,
and she's very vocal. She'll advocate for herself without hesitation. She'll tell you
yeah,
how she feels.
yeah,
Um, she'll tell you, no, thank you, I don't want that. No, I don't like that. Or yes,
yeah.
I do like
Yes.
that.
I love that about her.
I
I think
love
I've told you this before. I could just sit, and Scott's my husband feels the same way. It's like we could just sit and watch her because she just has this zeal for life. Like she's so happy to be
yeah.
there and like give the girl a microphone and the party
Oh
is
yeah.
on.
Yes.
She just loves life. She's so
She
enjoyable to
really
be
does.
around.
She does. She loves entertaining and she's not one where if she feels like everyone's looking at her, it doesn't freak her out. She's just like, "Oh, you're okay, cool. I'll put on a show for you." And like,
A bigger
because
audience.
yes,
Yeah.
she really treats the world as her audience, and she is just on her little stage always. And I love that about her. She's not shy at all. Whenever she feels safe in
Mhm.
her environment, you'll see those awesome things about her, where she's singing and dancing, or she's just full of life. And if
Yeah.
when she's by herself playing, I can hear her humming. So
Hmm.
she's very musical. And but yeah, she loves the microphone. She loves entertaining. She likes to make people laugh and smile. That is like her
Yeah.
favorite thing.
Well, I think that she has awesome parents that have really advocated
Oh,
for her and made her feel like, yes, the world's yours. Here, take it, go.
Yeah.
You can do anything. So
Yes.
like that, I know I've seen you and Benny like on Facebook and stuff, like do groups and like special events for autism and things like that. Is there anything like that that's like close to your heart that is special to you?
Yes, so there's one event that we do every year, and it's called Casper Kids. And what this organization does is they will take kids with disabilities, not just autism, all disabilities,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll take them out. You'll have captains who will basically donate their boat, and
Oh,
they'll also volunteer to be the captain for that child. They'll get
uh-huh.
assigned a child and they take them out onto the lake and they go fishing.
So it's cast,
And
CIST, like you're casting a reel.
yes,
Okay, awesome.
yes. And so she's done that every year for the past 4 years, and
Oh,
she
wow.
absolutely loves it. She loves it. She's so happy. It just the smiles that you see on all of those kids' faces is just,
Makes it worth it.
man, you leave. Oh yeah, like they leave you better than they found you. It's like you go there and you are just guaranteed to leave with your heart full and the biggest smile on your face.
Oh,
And
that's
these
amazing.
kids, yeah, these kids just have so many amazing, amazing qualities about them that they just truly spread joy.
Oh,
An event that we do every year in October, and it's coming up.
oh, this is
So
coming
we're
up.
looking,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're so excited. She's excited.
I
She
bet
always
she
looks forward
is.
to it. Yeah, it's great though. It's
That's
a fun one.
awesome. That's awesome. So, I wanted to ask you, like, if you had any advice, like, say, a parent that's like just beginning this journey on a child with autism, or even anybody that's already been on it for a while, what is the best piece of advice that you would want to give someone in that situation?
So this is one thing I promised myself. Once I got a for sure diagnosis, which was actually recent that we got her actual medical diagnosis, because
Mhm.
it is absolute, it's just crazy how
So it
hard it
takes a
is to
while.
even, yes, the process is truly, I mean, it is difficult. It's not easy at all, but you got to be resilient, hang
Yeah.
in there, don't give up. Just know that you will have to be the strongest advocate for your child. But one thing I did promise myself is that I was always going to be a means of support for another mom, you know,
Hmm.
when they get their diagnosis for the first time and they feel like the world's crashing around them and they're scared and they don't know what to do or how to help their baby, or
Yeah.
they fear that they won't fit in and all these different things. So I promised myself that I was going to be that friend that would give them reassurance. And so what I would tell a mom who is just receiving a diagnosis like this for the very first time is, don't worry more than necessary, because your baby will teach you everything it is that you didn't know you needed
Yeah.
about life.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, and let them do that. Let them teach you all the amazing things that you never would have known about the world around you or people around you had you not been their mother. And
Oh, you're gonna make me
they will,
cry.
yeah, like they will teach you empathy, they will teach you patience, they will teach you that not everything has to be quote unquote normal. And that's, normal's boring. That is the
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned from Ella is like, who cares about what people think of you? That's not even a thought in her mind. And I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, that is so cool. Like,
And
I
that's such
wish,
a that's such an awesome thing to be able to go through life like that. I don't care what you think.
yeah, she does not have that. She does
Yeah.
not stop to think, oh, does this person like me, or am I weird to this person, or do they like my
Yeah.
outfit? She does not care. This girl is like, I don't know that you like me or you don't. I'm gonna do my thing anyways. And I think that's the coolest thing about her. And
Yeah.
that's what she's taught me. She's taught me like, just live
No.
and don't be so caught up in what other people think about you, because it doesn't matter anyway.
Right.
And so that is another thing that I would tell a mom is like, let them teach you all the beautiful things that you did not know prior to becoming a mama to a child on the spectrum. And also don't let your fear run you,
Mm-hmm.
but also don't get caught up in wanting to keep yourself in a space of ignorance, because that's not going to bring you bliss. It is your job as their parent to get them all the necessary help that is available to them so that they can succeed in life. Because if you go through life telling yourself, no, nothing's wrong with them,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a great disservice to your child,
Yeah.
a great disservice. And that's only because you're trying to protect your own feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
It's not
you're
about
feeling
you.
it's not about you.
Yeah.
And no one's judging them or you. Do what you got to do for your baby. There's so many different resources that are available for children these days.
Mm-hmm.
Go out there and find those resources and fight hard for them so that they can have a quality life. And don't be so worried about, oh, I don't want that label on my child. It's not a death sentence. It's really
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And the ones who love her, they're going to always love her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And to focus on what she can't do. I need to focus on what she can do
Right.
and really just let myself marvel in all the amazingness that she is.
Mm-hmm. All the
And
potential that she has, and that one thing does not
right,
define her.
right.
Yeah.
And if the lights are too bright for her, or it's too noisy, or she walks into a room and there's way too many people and she wants to run the opposite way, I'm gonna run right
With her?
behind her and tell
Yeah.
her, all right, girl,
Yeah.
let's go. We
Oh,
don't
I
have to
love
be
it.
here,
I love it.
you know? And so she also has given me permission in those situations too, where it's like, this is too much for me. I actually don't have to make myself suffer through this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like it's just all the things that she's taught me are just, I would never ever change it. I needed her. And I always say that
Oh,
she is exactly what I needed in my life to become a version of myself that I don't think I would have ever met hadn't it been for her. So she's the best thing that has ever happened to me and to our family, and even to her big sister, because I get to see her sister, how she loves and looks after her and cares for her and even disciplines her. And it's like, it's so special because I don't know that I would have ever seen that side of Riley if she
sure.
didn't have her sister to fiercely protect. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
she just brings out all these amazing qualities out of people without her even realizing it. She's just
Yeah. That's
existing.
just who she
And
is. Yeah.
yeah, she's just existing, and everybody who knows her is better because, she's around, and she brings smiles to people. She makes people laugh because there's situations where I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry she said
You gotta
that.
find the humor
But
in
it
it.
makes Yes, but everyone's like, that's awesome. Like, that is hilarious. And I'm over here like, sorry,
Yeah.
but
It is what it is.
she's just right. Ella will always be Ella, and she is truly just the sweetest, cutest little thing ever. And
She
she's
is.
just my little feisty firecracker that is animated and wants to make people smile and laugh always. And
I love it. I
but
love it.
that's what I would say to mom though. Circling back to that is
Yeah.
let them teach you and marvel in all the amazingness that they are. And yes, you will have ups and downs, and it's never linear. You
Yeah.
will have progression, you will have regression. However, even in those moments where you feel like you're in the middle of a crazy storm and you feel like, oh my goodness, I don't know if this is going to get better, it does. It always does. It
Oh,
always gets better. And then it gets crazy again. But
yeah.
you
But
have
it
to
always
remember
gets
that
better.
always, always. And you just have to remember that even though this is hard right now, there's going to be some good on the horizon because, I mean, there's no flowers without rain, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it's those moments that are really hard that teach you what you're made of too.
I
So,
think that's really beautiful. I hope that if there is a mom that's listening, that they can take that to heart and be like, I got this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be
yeah,
okay.
definitely. It is. It's always going to be okay. And one thing about autism is that you'll hear some people who will say, I this wasn't such a common thing back then. However, where there's one, there are others.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and it's like, yeah, maybe because nobody knew why grandpa wanted to hang out by himself and
Uh-huh.
sharpen his knife all day in a
Right.
certain pattern and
And we didn't
was
have
very
Google in our hand to be like, what does
exactly
this mean? Yeah, it's a different time. It doesn't mean that it didn't exist before. You just didn't hear
exactly
about
or
it. Yeah.
exactly. And so or they would just say, "Oh, that's just how they are."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's I mean that's fine, but yeah, that's what that was. Those are some of those traits are from, having autism.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I love my conversations that I have with my dad because he always tells me that's how I was as a kid. I was like her. He's like, and I'm pretty sure I'm on the spectrum too. He's like, it just makes sense,
Yeah.
and so I love that he's very much like, yeah, I probably am on the spectrum too. So what?
Yeah. There's probably
He's like,
more than or not, really.
I
Think about it.
know.
So,
Yeah. And so I love that he is always validating her
yeah, that's good.
because,
That's good.
yeah, I love that because he's like, you only have, and I love how he defends her and he's just so close to her because he understands her.
That's
And,
great.
and so he'll tell me things like, you only have to tell her once. She heard you the
She
first
heard you the
time.
first time, Mama. Yeah.
Yes. He's like, even though she didn't look at you or respond to you, she heard you and she'll do it. The second that she's done with whatever it is she's doing right now, she will do what you're asking of her. But if you keep
Oh.
asking her, she's going to get frustrated and she's going to have a reaction that you're not going to like. And then you're going to feel like you have to discipline her for that when really the whole time is that you're irritating
You were
her.
impatient. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's
And I'm like,
like she has a big, happy family that everybody's willing to advocate for her always.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think
And it
I
did
think she
take
was born
time.
into the right family.
I think so too. And it did take time. It took time for our
Sure.
family um, to start to educate themselves. And I just love how much support we have from our family because they'll ask questions or
Hmm.
they're like, hey, so what's going on with her? What's going on with Ella now? Like, she's doing so good. Look at all this
Yeah.
progress that she's made. And me, because I'm with her every day, sometimes that progress I don't see right away,
Yeah.
but whenever family members who haven't seen her in a little while, they'll tell me, "No, she wasn't doing XYZ last time and now she is. This is so
Oh.
cool." So they'll spot her progress very quick and they are so quick to commend me and her dad and big sister, and they're always commending her and giving her praise and telling her how proud they are of her and that she's so smart and all these amazing things. And so she feels like so loved and accepted.
Good. Good.
Yeah, so she just has like such a strong support system around her. She truly does. She has an army behind her. It's
That's
like,
amazing. That's amazing. And that commendation goes such a long way, especially for a kid.
yes,
Just to
exactly.
encourage them.
Yeah, especially for a mama of a
Yeah.
child with special needs, so
Right.
it's like when I hear those things, my heart sings. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's so awesome. I'm so glad you noticed that or that you saw that. And it never fails. I always get reassurance from my friends and family, and they'll tell me, like, you're doing so good with her. And we see how no one can connect with her like you can. It's
Hmm.
so special. And we have a really awesome bond, me and her. And it's just like, I feel like she's just an extension of me.
Right.
And people with autism they are certainly not dumb. They are not dumb. In fact, they are smarter than the rest of us.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they just truly want to be understood
Hmm.
and respected.
And
They just want,
respected. Yeah.
yeah, they want their needs respected. They want to feel in control of their environment. And when they can't handle something because it's too much, all they need is empathy. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all they need is empathy and respect.
Well, it sounds like you've got that down. It sounds like
I,
you guys, it's like a lot of learning. I think it probably will always be learning, but
oh yeah,
most importantly, it's a lot of love. And y'all have definitely given her that, what she needs.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. We do. We definitely try, and
Yeah,
she's
you
such
guys
a
have done
gift.
a great job. A great job.
Thank you.
Everybody loves Ella. We love all of y'all, of course, and we're so
Oh,
so proud to call you our friends. So, and I want to say
oh,
thank you for coming, being candid, sharing all of this personal stuff. I really hope it can
yeah.
maybe help somebody else too.
Me too. I hope so. And thank you so much for having me on so that I'm able to talk about this. And it is my hope that I can also help another mommy out there that, has a special needs child so she feels seen and understood
Mhm.
and empathized with. So, but we got this. All of
You
us, we're
got it.
all in this together. Yeah.
Yes. So
So
like I like to say at the end of my episodes, anxious mamas unite. We got this.
we sure do. Thanks,
Give Ella a
Jody.
squish for us.
I sure will.
All
See you
right, love you,
soon.
girl.
Love you.
Bye bye.
Bye.